Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And welcome along once again. It is that time of the week, that time of the evening at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. It's time for Jumping In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz with Chris and myself, H, and a bit of a special because it's that time, LJF.
Indeed it is. Welcome along to this week's show in what has to be one of our favourite times of the year. Not nearly Christmas or just after bonfire night, although there will be fireworks, but that time of the year when the world's best jazz talents converge on London for the best 10-day party spread across the main concert venues, jazz clubs, pubs for the EFG London Jazz Festival. And guess what? It started yesterday. Well, we'll be making our annual pilgrimage with recorders in hand to see if we can catch up with some of the stars, but for the next couple of weeks, we'll give you a taste of what you're missing, unless you're already there or listening online. Anyway, H, what has you steaming at the collar and frothing at the mouth in expectation, other than the chili you had for lunch and the washing liquid you refused to rinse from your mug?
Well, most of the stuff, really. I mean, it's just a feast of great sounds down there in London, but you can't get round to see it all. It would be impossible. However, what am I looking at this time? A little bit of a Binker Golding, fantastic player. He was on the show a while back. We chatted to him. He's got a gig at the Pizza Express, four-wheel drive, wonderful group, and featuring Michael Volney amongst others, wrote Ronnie's, and the wonderful Karen Shaw playing as well.
Excellent. And from me, well, we leak, we price, we hunt, and to start with the party, we'll have a fist fight at the barn dance. Here's Gareth Lockrane and his band with Do It. Yes, indeed. As good as the first time I heard it, the fabulous Gareth Lockrane Big Band, and he'll be performing for the 15th London Jazz Festival in their normal cosy home, Spice of Life on Moore Street. I say cosy because the band half fill the venue by themselves. They're there tomorrow lunchtime, then again with an octet and a sextet on Wednesday evening, with the life and works of one of South Africa's greatest musicians, Becky Miseleku, and that too is at the Spice. Gareth promised us a new big band album last time we saw him, so hopefully it's not too far away.
Never too far away, I wouldn't think. Never too far away if you're down in London is Ronnie Scott's there in the centre of Soho, sort of a haven, an iconic jazz club, I guess, for so many people. And often if you go there, it'll be packed out with a lot of jazz fans and a lot of other people who probably aren't jazz fans, but are there because it's Ronnie Scott's and they just want to go and say they've been to Ronnie Scott's. It really is a haven for musicians and music lovers the world over, and one of those places you've got to go to, like the Village Vanguard in New York. Appearing there this year is the wonderful Four Wheel Drive, a group made up of the likes, well, basically it's made up of Niels Landgren on trombone and vocals, the wonderful Michael Valmy on piano, he of M fame, Lars Danielsson, bass and cello, an amazing musician, and the German drummer who always hides his bushel, or light under a bushel a little bit, I think. Not his bushel under a light, but a wonderful player he is indeed, Wolfgang Hafner on the drums. Here they are live a couple of years ago on the Act label with a track called Silent Way. great. I thought there were going to be some applause somewhere. They're being very polite there. Waiting for the last breath of the trombone to disappear, unlike me. Four-wheel drive. Nils Landgren, Michael Volny, Lars Danielsson and Wolfgang Hafner there on the ACT label, and that was produced or recorded live in concert at the Theaterhaus Jazztage Stuttgart in April of 2019. And if you want to see or hear, or see and hear perhaps, what they are like live, then if there are tickets left, you might like to go along to Ronnie Scott's at the London Jazz Festival, because they are playing there. Can't wait to see them live there, actually. It sounds great there. They will be there on the evening of the Saturday the 18th, just looking at the diary here. Yeah, Saturday the 18th, they will be there at 9:45, I think, in Ronnie's. Should be great stuff. I'm looking forward to that one immensely.
Indeed, and it's worth going to Ronnie's, even if you just fancy the grub, because it's always quite good food in there too.
Beer's not bad either.
Next from me, a pianist we last saw playing at the Archduke, another favourite haunt actually, under the railway arches just behind the South Bank Centre with a trio. But this year he'll be appearing at Woolwich Works, the fireworks factory, a venue I don't know, I'll be honest, with a celebration of the early incarnation of Chick Corea's Return to Forever with Light as a Feather. However, we'll hear him from his 2011 album, Aquarium with Strangers. Good stuff. Sam Leake's Aquarium there with Strangers from their 2011 release Aquarium. A great band, actually. They received critical acclaim for both of their albums. James Alsop on tenor and bass clarinet. A great sounding instrument, that, of course. Championed, obviously, by Stan...
John Sermon.
John Sermon, yes. Thank you. And Callum Gourley on bass and Joshua Blackmore on the drums. And, of course, Sam Leake on the piano. His festival of appearances see him join forces with Gareth on flute, who's having a busy festival. Heidi Vogel on vocals, Lawrence Cottle on the bass, and Jamie Murray serving. Oh, no, wrong one. On drums, in this case.
Terrific stuff. It is Jumpin In, Chris and myself, H, with the first of a couple of London Jazz Festival specials, sort of a preview and a post-view almost, I guess. It's already started and we will be down there this very coming week, catching what we can, hopefully garnering a couple of interviews as well. And we might try and catch up with this man. We spoke to him down the line a little bit earlier in the year, I think, after his latest album, and a very nice guy he was too, very chatty. And we said we'd try and catch him at the LGF if we can, and we're hoping to see him at the Pizza Express with his group. Here he is. This is Binker Golding with his long-term partner Moses Boyd on drums from their latest, I think, which is a great mix of sax, drums and electronics called Feeding the Machine. great stuff. Really enjoyed that album a lot. Binker and Golding, Feeding the Machine, and a track called After the Machine Settles. And in a slightly different setting, he's another musical chameleon. He plays in so many different sort of styles in many ways. He will be there with his own group in a sort of new direction for him as well. So this on Saturday the 18th of November. You can go down to the Pizza Express. I expect there'll be chock-a-blocker, but a wonderful place and a cracking club as well, where Binker will be there with his latest group, not with Moses Boyd on drums in this particular case, but I think highlighting his latest song Gearbox under his own name, Dream Like a Dogwood Wild Boy, where he's got this new sound which we featured and spoke to him about earlier in the year with this new album, blues, heartland rock and Americana very much to the fore, but all very much rooted in that jazz idiom, exploring all sorts of different aspects of manhood and friendship and love and drinking and all the rest of it. Everything that goes to make up American and British life as well, I guess. Cracking gig that will be as well. If you can get in, it's a great club, but it gets busy.
It does indeed, as do many of these venues during this time, and all the good clubs throughout the year as well. Now, if you wanted a straight-ahead swinger of an evening, you would be hard-pressed to beat the Nigel Price Organ Trio, heard here with a guest appearance from Vasilis Anopoulos on tenor and Layla. Layla, perhaps not the Layla you were expecting, but the Wes Montgomery number reimagined there by a couple of the hardest working musicians on the scene, guitarist Nigel Price and the fantastic Ross Stanley on Hammond. No one knows the B3 as well as Ross, and indeed few would be prepared to tour with a real B3 and a Leslie without a full crew of roadies and an Arctic, but he seems to manage largely by himself. And Joel Barford on the drums, joined there by the great Vasilis Xenopoulos on tenor. The trio really swing, and their 2021 release, Wes Reimagined, is worthy of a place in anyone's collection.
It most certainly is, and a wonderful chap. We had a chat with him at Southport a few years back.
Very nice chap.
Really nice guy, and very sort of quite intense actually when you start talking to him, and very open and honest, but a fantastic player in that mainstream style. Really wonderful stuff as well. Must go back and have a listen to that one. I'm going for another ambient sound, yes, mixing it up. And the whole thing, that's the great thing with the London Jazz Festival. Frankly, as we know, jazz covers a multitude of sins. From straight ahead to trad to big band to mainstream to free to modern, avant-garde, third stream, jazz funk, jazz, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on and on and on. And pretty much the chances are there'll be something there for you. Even if you don't like it all, there'll be something there for you. Some very commercial, some incredibly free. And everything in between. Take your pick. This is probably firmly in the middle, I would say, going towards the more modern end and slightly ambient sound. It's the latest from the wonderful sax player Mette Henriette, who is supporting the great Charles Lloyd. And we'll be hearing from him in next week's programme as well. And she has just released, I think she has the honour of being the only person on the ECM label to debut with a double album. I don't know how that came about, but it did. And it's very good. And then she followed it up with this one, Drifting.
Hi there, this is Binker Golding. You're listening to Manx Radio. This is the Jumping In show with Chris and H.
unmistakably Monk Erenel. Perhaps you wouldn't know necessarily, be able to guess the sax player. If you did guess her, well done. Karen Sharp, wonderful player. Used to play with Humphrey Littleton and all sorts of great bands over the years. Plays with Alan Barnes a lot these days in his octet and such like. In this case, with her own quartet, and a wonderful quartet it is too, if I tell you. It's Nicky Isles on piano, the great smiliest drummer in town, Steve Brown, behind the kit, and the equally smiley and wonderful chap on the bass, Dave Green, all great jazzes, and like I said, from an album of Karen's called Spirit, and she will be playing in the London Jazz Festival tomorrow. As you listen to this, she will be Sunday the 12th. She'll be playing at a club I don't know, or a location I don't know, Caramel on Coburg Road. I don't think I've ever been there. Have you been there?
No, Caramel with a K as well.
Yeah, Caramel with a K. Haven't been there at all. Not playing with that exact setup, but she will be in a double bill with the great Art Thiemann, celebrating the music of Sonny Rollins. Shame we can't get to that. That'll be a cracking night, I must admit, and really be very good indeed. And she'll be playing again with Art on tenor, Karen on tenor, John Donaldson piano, Amy Baldwin bass, Dave Ingemels at the drums. And before that, the eclectic and wonderful Norwegian or semi-Norwegian sax player Mette Henriette, who will be supporting Charles Lloyd at the Barbican, and that is on Friday the 17th of November. We're hoping to get down to that. She is now, I think, in her 30s, and like I said, debuted at the age of 24 with a double album on ECM. I don't know the story behind that. I'd love to look it up at some stage, why she was given that amazing privilege of a double album as someone relatively unheard of, certainly in this part of the world in any case. But terrific, it's that lovely mesmeric, quite ambient sort of sound. She'll be appealing with the same musicians you heard on that album. That's namely Johan Lindvall on the piano and Judith Harman at the cello. Looking forward to that almost as much as Charles Lloyd himself. Should be great.
Yes, she's certainly worth hearing, and maybe because she's semi-Norwegian, a term I've not heard before. Karen Sharp.
Sammy, not semi.
Sammy Norwegian, yes.
Norwegian,
yes.
yeah.
Karen is a great
Charles
exponent
Lloyd.
of the baritone, as you
She
heard,
is.
and she's diminutive, so the baritone is almost as big as her. But that's about it for this week's show. However, we'll be hearing from Nicky Isles next week for sure, and something funky before we go. Celebrating their 50th anniversary, the Headhunters, started by Herbie Hancock, of course, have continued to get audiences on their feet with original members Bill Summers on percussion and Mike Clark, who took over from drums fairly early on in the band's history, with the New Orleans finest Kyle Roussel on keyboards, Donald Harrison on alto, and Chris Severin on 7-string bass. From their 2022 album Speakers in the House, here's Vaspurakin. More festival sneak peeks next week, where we'll hopefully be there to catch a few players, as H said, with a post-festival special or two to come
We
too.
hope.
Here's Vaspukarin. See you next week.
A couple of Guinness as well. Cheerio.